I never thought my grandfather's wake would be the moment I'd find out the strangest and heaviest story my family had ever kept hidden. It happened a few years ago, back in the village. The house was full. Uncles, cousins, neighbors, all sitting in the living room and out in the yard with cups of cold coffee and bread rolls that almost nobody touched. You know how wakes are in small towns. People talk, they remember. Some laugh quietly. Others cry when they think no one is watching. At first, my uncles were sharing stories about my grandfather Pacífico, how he ran away as a young man to go work in another city, how he almost lost his farmland over a card game, how he always came home with dirt on his boots, but a joke on his lips. Between the laughter, the night moved on. Until suddenly, one of my uncles said something that changed the whole atmosphere. "There's something we never told you," he said. "We didn't tell you before. Because honestly, it's frightening." The room went quiet. Even the people in the kitchen stopped talking. Everyone knew this wasn't just any story. My grandfather Pacífico had been a farmer his whole life. He had several plots of land around the village. One of them was farther out than the rest, past the cemetery, down a dirt path that at night looked pitch black, like it had no end. To get there, he had to drive a good stretch and then walk the rest on foot between the fields. His routine never changed. Every single day, without fail, at 5 a.m, he'd stop by my Uncle David's house to borrow his pickup truck. He'd load up his tools, a small bag of coca leaves, some hard bread wrapped in a cloth napkin, and off he'd go, calm as ever. Same time every day. And he came back at the same time, too. That's what everyone always said about him. Your grandfather was like clockwork. 2:30 in the afternoon, give or take, and he'd already be sitting at the table with my grandmother, eating his soup and his main plate, before nodding off in the chair for a little while. Until one day, that schedule broke. That day he left like always, with the same calm. He said goodbye to my grandmother, threw his jacket over his shoulders, grabbed his bag of coca, and left. No fuss, just like every other day. But he didn't come back at 2:30, not at 3, not at 4. At first, my grandmother didn't want to panic. She figured maybe someone had stopped him on the way, that he'd stayed to chat with someone he knew, that maybe he was taking advantage of the time to get more work done. But when the clock hit 5 and it was starting to get dark, something shifted in her. She put down the plate she was washing, dried her hands on her apron, and went straight to find my Uncle David. "He's not back," she told him. "Your father isn't back." The two of them started asking around, the neighbors, the people who lived near the entrance to the dirt road. "Have you seen him come back this way? Have you seen him with the truck?" Nobody knew anything. Someone told them they shouldn't wait any longer and should go out to the field. That if something had happened on the road, the sooner they got there, the better. A family friend lent them a car, and they went. They didn't need to make it all the way to the field. Halfway there, where the path narrows, they found the truck. It was lying on its side, sunk into the ditch, like it had slipped off the edge and gotten stuck there. My grandfather wasn't inside. He was sitting on the ground, a few meters away. He didn't have any major injuries. He wasn't bleeding, but he looked bad. Very bad. My uncle says his face was completely white, like all the blood had been drained from his body. His hands were trembling, but he wasn't saying a word. His eyes were open, but he didn't seem to see them. Pacífico, what happened? They kept asking. No answer. His lips were moving, but no sound was coming out. They helped him up as best they could and put him in the car. The truck stayed where it was, on its side, because right then, what mattered was him. When they got back to the house, my grandmother nearly fainted when she saw him. They laid him down in his bed, gave him water, tried to get him to respond. They talked to him, touched his face, shook his shoulders. Nothing. It was like he was there, but he wasn't. His body was cold, not like someone with a fever or chills. It was a different kind of cold, the kind you can't quite explain where it comes from. My uncles started arriving one by one, called by the neighbors. Each one came with something in hand, a bottle of rubbing alcohol, medicine from the health post, some herbal brew, whatever they could think of, to shake the fright out, as they put it. They tried everything. They blew alcohol on his chest, rubbed his hands, talked into his ear. My grandfather stayed the same, not asleep, but not awake either, until my Aunt Pilar arrived. She's always been the unusual one in the family, in the best way. When she was young, she spent time with a local healer, learned how to perform cleansings, how to call the soul back, as some people say, how to treat those ailments that doctors don't understand, but country people know to respect. The moment she walked into the room and saw him, she frowned. "This isn't just fright," she said. Everyone went quiet. My aunt asked everyone to leave the room, keeping only the closest family. Then she started giving instructions like she already knew exactly what needed to be done. "Bring coca leaves," she said, "some sweets, animal-shaped cookies if you have them, cigarettes, and cane liquor. And bring me the clothes he was wearing when the accident happened. All of it, just as it is." My uncles didn't ask too many questions. They knew that in matters like this, it was better to listen. They brought out the clothes that had been taken off my grandfather when they brought him in. Pants, shirt, jacket, all of it still smelling of earth and road dust. By then, it was almost midnight. The village was still. All you could hear were some dogs barking in the distance, and, every now and then, the engine of a car passing on the main road. My Aunt Pilar said they had to go back to the place of the accident that very same night. "If we wait until tomorrow, it won't be the same," she said. "Right now we're still in time." My grandmother, my uncles, and a couple of neighbors volunteered to go. My mother went too. What I'm telling now is a mix of what they saw and what they repeated many times over the years. They went back down that dirt road, but this time at night. The fog was low, pressed against the ground, like someone had let smoke drift across the whole area. The car's headlights barely lit a few meters ahead. Beyond that, everything was dark. They reached the spot where the truck was still lying on its side. The car parked a little before it. My aunt laid a blanket on the ground, on the side of the road. On top of it, one by one, she placed the things she had asked for, coca leaves arranged in small piles, the sweets, the animal crackers, the cigarettes, the bottle of cane liquor. A little farther ahead, right in the middle of the road, she spread out my grandfather's clothes. as if she were laying down his shape in the very spot where something had been left behind. The group fell silent. All you could hear was the wind moving through the grass and a lone insect somewhere. The fog made everything look blurred. My aunt lit a cigarette, took a drag, and began blowing the smoke over the clothes, like a blessing, or like calling something back. Then she splashed a little cane liquor around it, as if marking a circle. After that, she turned to my grandmother. "You call him," she said. My grandmother swallowed hard. She stepped closer, and in a trembling voice began saying his name. "Pacífico, Pacífico, come back. Come back, Pacífico." Over and over, while she called out to him, my aunt murmured things under her breath, words no one could quite make out, mixing Spanish with something else that sounded old, ancient. That was the moment my mother felt something was wrong. She was standing a little further back near the car, shining her phone flashlight along the sides of the road. She says that all of a sudden she noticed movement among the fields. At first she thought they were people, dark figures standing upright between the crops, looking toward the road. But when she focused her eyes, she realized they weren't like normal people. The shapes were very tall, very thin. Some looked more elongated than a human body should be, and they moved too fast, like they were floating just above the ground. They were like shadows, but denser than the surrounding darkness. Every time my grandmother said "Pacífico," one of those shadows seemed to move a little closer to the road. Some stayed still, like they were watching. Others slid between the plants, drifting in and out of sight. The worst part, according to my mother, were the eyes. At certain moments, when she shone her phone light toward them, she'd see small flashes, like when an animal looks into a light at night and its eyes catch the beam. But there were many of them, too many. They weren't dog eyes or cat eyes. They were higher up, at the height of a person. 2 points glowing in the fog, and then gone. Someone said, "Let's go. This isn't right." My Uncle Juan went to the car and started the engine, keeping it running. One of the neighbors began praying under her breath. Another uncle said they should just leave everything there and go. But my Aunt Pilar didn't move. While everyone else was slowly stepping back, she went forward. She walked up to my grandfather's clothes, snatched them up quickly, like she was recovering something important. She left the sweets and the cookies scattered on the ground, like an offering, like payment to whatever was out there. "That's enough," she called out. "Let's go." They ran back to the car. As they drove away, those shadows were still there. Some were moving, others seemed to be drifting toward the edge of the road. The fog made them appear and disappear, like the air itself was swallowing them. Nobody wanted to look too long. They just wanted to get out of there. They drove back to the village almost without speaking. As soon as they arrived at the house, my aunt went straight to the room where my grandfather was lying. They took off the clean clothes they'd put on him and, without explanation, began dressing him again in the clothes from the day of the accident. The shirt, the pants, the jacket, all of it. While they did it, my aunt kept murmuring. My grandmother was crying silently. Then something started to change. First, it was the color. My grandfather's hands, which had looked gray, began taking on a more normal tone. His face wasn't so pale anymore. Then the cold. When they touched his forehead, it wasn't ice cold anymore. It was like his body was coming back. At dawn, my grandfather opened his eyes. He didn't say much, but he looked at my grandmother, recognized her, and that was enough to make everyone break into tears. Later that same day, he was able to eat a little soup. Little by little, he recovered. Days passed, and when he was stronger, my uncles asked him what he remembered from that afternoon. He went quiet for a while, like he didn't know where to begin. "I was driving back," he said finally. "I was tired, but I was fine. Then, on one stretch, past the fields, I started seeing strange things." He said that on both sides of the road, between the crops, he began noticing shadows. Not people, but not animals either, like figures standing still, watching him. He said he tried to ignore them and keep going, until, out of nowhere, one of those shadows crossed in front of the truck. It happened so fast that all he could do was jerk the wheel to avoid hitting it. That's where his memory ends. After that, nothing, he said, like someone switched me off. Later, when everything was talked about more calmly, my Aunt Pilar explained what she believed had happened. She said that on those roads, especially near old farmland, the condemned ones appear. Souls of people who did terrible things, or who died badly, or who never received the masses they needed. People who couldn't leave and who stay attached to certain places, repeating the same steps, looking to pull others along with them. According to her, the shadows they saw in the fog were the condemned. My grandfather's accident was the perfect opportunity for them. His body was there, half alive, half gone. His soul confused, not knowing whether to leave or stay. If we hadn't gone that night, my aunt said, those clothes would have stayed out there, and with the clothes, a part of him. They would have taken him. That's why, she explained, it was so important to perform the ritual in the exact same place, to gather his trace, call him by name, and dress him in those clothes again. Whether what she said is true or not, what's certain is that after that night, my grandfather went back to walking, talking, and laughing, just like before. He never returned to that far field. He sold that land not long after, and since then, whenever anyone in the family has to pass through that stretch of road, they do it during the day, never at night, and never when there's fog. That night at the wake, when they finished telling the whole story, nobody said anything for a long time. All you could hear was the wind outside, moving the branches of the tree in the yard, and the murmur of some quiet prayers. I looked at the casket where my grandfather rested and thought about something I haven't been able to shake since. Maybe that wasn't the first time those condemned souls had shown themselves on the road. Maybe sometimes, when you're traveling alone down a dirt path, those shadows are still there, quiet among the crops, waiting for someone to pass through, too tired, too distracted, waiting for one more chance to take someone with them.